firms. Okay, we are live.
All right, welcome to the March edition of the ASCLS Ascending and Developing Professionals Forum, Ask Me Anythings. This month's topic is actually stress and burnout as it relates to the laboratory. So we have 4 panelists. I'm going to just do a quick read of their bios real fast. And then, so ground rules is the best place to put your questions so it doesn't get confusing is in the chat. And I will be keeping up with that and reading the chat, and then the panelists will answer your questions. So whenever I read your bio, just wave so everybody knows who you are. First panelist is Ms. Chloe Thompson. She is a quality auditor and regulatory specialist at Blood Bank of Delmarva, which is a division of the New York Blood Center Enterprises. She also assists at the University of Delaware Department of Medical and Molecular Sciences with clinical chemistry, hematology, coagulation analyzer maintenance, configuration, and repair for the student laboratories. Previously, she's worked as a medical laboratory scientist for Blood Bank of Delmarva in the donor screening and reference laboratory, where her duties included infectious disease and nucleic acid testing, equipment maintenance, and performing immunohematology work and special testing on samples from nearby hospitals. She's a member of AABB and serves on the planning committee as a moderator for their Twitter journal club, #AABBJC. And she will begin studying for SBB or Specialist in Blood Banking certification, and she will take her exam this May. She enjoys reading, coffee, educating others about the field of medical laboratory science and its impact on daily life, and advocates for the environments that foster a sustainable mental health. Our next panelist is Ms. Christine Malek. She teaches at the University of Minnesota MLS program. She has participated in the Mindfulness and Education Summer Institute at the University of Minnesota, which sparked her interest in promoting mindfulness, well-being, and resiliency for MLS students and new MLS professionals. Christine is also certified as a mental health advocate for the UMN MLS program. And our next panelist is Ms. Lona Small, who is a quality assurance specialist at the Johns Hopkins Hospital and the laboratory coach and trainer at LabOpX Training and Consulting. Ms. Small spent the last 2 decades studying leadership, team dynamics, quality and patient safety, lean and processes improvement, and demonstrating return on investments on projects. She enjoys training, coaching, and mentoring medical laboratory professionals and lab leaders to excel and demonstrate their impact with their teams, peers, organizations, and leading their labs from merely good to operational excellence. And I'm your final panelist. I'm Jessica Lawless. I am the Ascending Professional Forum chair for this year, and how I relate to this topic is I'm also a 200-hour registered yoga teacher through the Yoga Alliance, which, if you didn't know, that's the accrediting body for yoga teachers. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone who in attendance, and we will open the floor for questions. Well, I'll start rolling with a question. I just want to hear how, like, truly that when you started realizing that managing stress and burnout in the laboratory was going to be a bigger issue than you maybe thought before.
Is that for any of us? Okay, so before I went into teaching, I worked in a cytogenetics lab, and it was a very intense place to work. Like many of the things in MLS, our results save people's lives, so there's a lot of stress involved in that. But as I moved up to a lead technologist and eventually a supervisor, the type of stress really changed and had a big effect on me, and was a big part of why I moved to teaching, which I love. But when I moved to teaching, I was really struck by the levels of anxiety of our students, and how even not just in general, but how they were actually getting, the university kind of had a system for helping them and for getting people accommodations and things like that to help them deal with some of those kinds of stresses. But as I saw that, and if that's already happening as a student and people are struggling with the skills, you can easily see where as they get into a stressful laboratory environment, where that is just going to be compounded. And so my thought was, if we can help them develop these skills now, then they'll have them for their full career.
For me, I basically experienced that. I experienced burnout, and I didn't even realize what it was. And I didn't make the connection until later on, the connection to the work environment. So I would get up when I was, this like many years ago, my kids are now adults. When they were younger, I'm thinking I had like a 1+, say a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 6-year-old. So my 6-year-old was pre-K, my 2-year-old, my 4-year-old was just preschool, and then I have a baby that was going to the daycare, and I was working evening shifts. So I thought evening shift would be a good shift to work so I can have the day. But the day was crazy. So I would like jump out of bed, and I remember jumping out of bed and falling to my knees and struggling to get up. And I knew I had to run because I had to take my pre-K, my preschool to like a daycare preschool. And I had to get her there by a certain time so she can get breakfast, run back home to get my pre-K ready for afternoon kindergarten, get dinner ready, get everything ready, get my lunch ready, get the baby to the sitter, run back to get him to afternoon by midday. Dinner had to be cooked before I leave, get to work. And then I found that I was going through dizziness and I didn't know what it was. And I kept going to the doctor. I would just sit there and feel as if I'm going to faint. And then I remember sitting in the doctor's office with a baby in my arm, which is like almost 2. She was like 1+. And my son, because he had to go to afternoon kindergarten, running around while the doctor trying to monitor me for dizziness. And he looked at me after he knew he did so many other tests and said, just look around. Do you have support? Because I'm thinking you're really not sick, because everything I've done, you're stressed. And that made me start thinking. And so I changed my shift from evening shift, and I start pushing my hours to like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so I can be home with the kids. And now I'm looking back at that and looking at, regular medical technologists who have to be running around trying to manage stuff, especially now in the pandemic. And so while I was now in a leadership role, I was able to interview medical lab technologists when we saw things like outbursts during the pandemic and other things, to understand and see the balance with like what's going on in terms of support at home, all the stress at work, and how that is so important, especially in healthcare and in the lab. With so much going on in the lab, it's so important to have a focus on your whole self and not just, let's focus on how they can get the job done. So, it was a connection that I had to make, but I realized that that was something that was affecting me, and I'm sure affecting a lot of other people who have to work in healthcare.
So I first realized that I was struggling with burnout. My first job was night shift. It was a couple weeks after I switched, and I found myself having panic attacks as I was walking out the door, leaving for work. Realized pretty fast that's not a sustainable way to live. But thankfully, I have a really supportive partner who really encouraged me to go to therapy and to really kind of help finding ways to cope and ways to kind of create balance in my life, which, if you're working an off shift, it's that much harder because you're fighting against everyone expecting you to just go all day and all evening and all night while you're at work, because all of our family just forgets that we still need to sleep when we're night shift. So it's been an ongoing journey. And that was still like right out of school where I was, kind of used to the stress, because I dare say I might be the youngest panelist here. But it's been a journey for sure. But that's when I first knew that burnout was going to be hard and probably come back to bite me in the butt more than once.
I don't have a huge answer to this, but just I've been practicing yoga for almost 21 years. And I'm super hyper, super high anxiety naturally. And so, but I care really deeply. And I feel like that's what I see a lot of laboratorians have, this like personality traits that lend themselves to stress problems and burnout. And those personality traits are a type A, process oriented, but really and truly on top of it, they want to help people so badly that they forget that boundaries are important, and that saying no sometimes is important. And just from an observational standpoint, that's what I see. And, not everybody wants to hear some yoga woo-woo. So I try to like insert some things when I can. We do have some questions in the chat. So we have a couple that kind of are similar, but I'll go with this one first. What are you, those of you who work in education, which I think is everybody but me, what specific techniques are you teaching your students or colleagues to do right now, or encouraging them to do right now? And piggy that with how has COVID affected stress and burnout? So maybe do a comparison, or even just answer the first question with COVID in mind.
So I can start. I mean, I'm working on a class that we are going to incorporate starting next year, where the goal is to teach students, our goal will be to teach the students to proactively build kind of an arsenal of tools to promote resilience in themselves and to help them deal with the known stresses that are going to come along, and really help them realize that stress is just a part of life, and COVID fits into that, and that it's the difficulty comes with how you respond over the fact that there's actual stress, because that there will be stress in your job, home life, and with COVID that it's kind of invading everybody's everyday. So the things we talk about are exercise, sleep hygiene, time in nature outside, mindfulness and meditation, and then a gratitude practice. So that's kind of the core of the things that like in this course, my plan is to elaborate on each of those items, and then within the class offer students the opportunity to try these things out. Sometimes one of the challenges is just time in general. So if you fit it, the reason to have it in the class is because then they have to take the time for it and they're getting a credit for it. So it opens up that opportunity for them to really actually take the time to do it, and for them to try those different things. And what works for stress for one person doesn't work for everybody. So making sure that they try those different, all of those different things, and kind of figure out what works for them specifically. I think gratitude really is one of the things that builds resilience. So for me, it's the meditation and a gratitude practice that help with those things the most. And the gratitude practice, there's 3 simple things you can do, like writing a letter or an email to to a school, to a coworker or one of the other students in your class or your cohort, and share something positive that they've done and something optimistic. And that helps to build social connections. And that is something that is really important in like lifetime success, but also it's something that's really missing right now due to the COVID situation. People's social connections are minimized. And then the second thing is to do for 21 consecutive days to take 1 minute to note 3 things that you're grateful for. And the goal of that is it starts to build a pattern in your brain to look for the positives. Because if you know at the end of the day, you're going to be writing down, 3 things that you're grateful for, you kind of start to look for them throughout the day. And it really builds that just a habit in your brain and your way of thinking. And then just small conscious acts of kindness. And that's something that can just have a snowball effect. So one person does one small gesture that inspires another, and it can continue to be paid forward. And all of those gratitude practices can help to build resilience. So those are kind of some of the main ones for me. And I feel like meditation helps people just step back a little bit and take a minute to think or to take a breath before they respond to things. And I think that's another thing that's really important when you're managing a stressful situation. So like a 90-second, I have in the past done like 90-second meditations before exams, things like that.
So for me, we found that especially during COVID, we were seeing scenarios, especially with the phlebotomists, because they have to be on the units, they have to deal with COVID patients. At the beginning, there's a lot of anxiety. You're not sure exactly what to expect. So what we did, we thought, let's just work with them, because there's this anxiety about safety, PPE. They were used to going into rooms where there are respiratory patients where they had to cover up and use PPE. But with COVID, there's this like, we're not sure if the type of PPE that we have is good enough. So we went with them and we did extra training to make sure that they're using PPE properly, they're donning and they're doffing properly, so they felt a little more comfort, but that still did not help. So what we did was we went with them. So we put our PPE on and we went with them to the units, and we did it twofold. So one, we're walking with them so they feel as if, well, we are willing as leaders to be there with them. And also we were observing to make sure they were using safety practice. So that helped a lot. Another thing that happened like later on, the stress was really going. People were having outbursts. So we're like, although we had, and we made sure we told people of the different resources available, like we have a group of people called RISE. So they deal with its resilience in stressful events, that they were there before to deal with whenever there's a patient safety event. They would be like working with second victim, but with COVID, so many people were needing their service. So we made sure we made that available. We made sure we keep reminding them of the support that's there for them. But we still were having people demonstrating different, irritation, outbursts. And so we met with the group and said, what is it that we could do to support you? And out of it came different things. Like, could there be a day when we come in the morning, we have fresh fruits, or, it's not like they couldn't get fresh fruits, but just knowing that leadership was there for them to say, we are thinking about you. You walk in, there's fresh fruits and a snack or something for you, or set up we talked about like a little meditation room. So we had a room, although it was difficult to get extra room in COVID because because of social distances, people are using every extra room for lunches. So we decided we'll have like a once per week jazz day. Initially, what they told us was they would prefer like a setting, like a meditation room where there's scents and teas and other, so they can just go in for 10 minutes or 15 minutes just to de-stress. So we made that available for them. So just having that support to say, we're there for you, we understand, we'll walk the walk with you, I think that helped. I mean, of course, it didn't get rid of the stress, but it's just different ways to manage some of the stress.
So we've mentioned a good number of kind of coping strategies and techniques to, de-stress. I'll be the first person to always say therapy can be useful for everyone. I will preach this until I am dead, I swear. But that was really a tool that I've encouraged more than one coworker. And like, they have no idea that I'm in it until I'm like, yeah, like I've been in therapy and it's been really helpful coping with pandemic stress. And they're like, oh, light bulbs go off. But in addition to that, knowing, the supervisory teams, making sure that, they're going in and working alongside us. That says more than anything. Like, they're not just sitting in their rooms away from it all. Like, they come out, they help us, they work alongside with us. That's been huge for our facility in the pandemic. Also, setting boundaries has definitely been helpful. That's also been really hard because we are a smaller division of our larger blood center enterprise, and we are staffed fairly lean as it is, leaner once COVID hit. So learning where the line is between saying yes to our mission, which is provide life-saving products to, hospitals throughout the region, life-saving services to hospitals throughout the region, and your own sanity really was what it came down to for some of our medical laboratory scientists, like being able to encourage them to hold a boundary and say, I'm tapped out, like, I need a break. And then that brings back up knowing your supervisors and your management team has your back, because they'll say, cool, all right, everyone's burnt out, I'll take this weekend's call. And, they're not paid extra to do that because they're salary. So that's, it means all the more to those of us on the bench. Again, I work in a very different environment. We are not a hospital, and I'm not education either. So it gets weird. I live in a strange niche. Anyway, that's all I've got right now.
Great diversity on the team. So, different perspective. It's really great.
Yes, they do appreciate that. Also, yes, more than one person in quality. I feel seen.
Oh, I'm definitely the hospital generalist. But okay, so I'm going to combine a couple of others. So we have one that says, it sounds like burnout is caused by understaffing, or a lot of burnout is caused by understaffing. And then also mentioned above, what changes in the field are needed to encourage more young people to become an MLS? And do you have examples of ways workplaces can counteract the understaffing issues? We got some faces. I'll start this one. I actually feel like it's time to acknowledge the hard work that our managers do, but supplement their education with how to make the numbers for more staff speak to hospital admin, because it's really comes down to FTE. Unfortunately, it takes a really brave individual, not saying our managers are not brave, but when I say it takes a brave individual, it's got to be somebody that might be willing to lose that job, but they have to be able to stand up for the laboratory, both salary, both staffing, both time off, vacation, all of that has to be addressed. And I know in ASCLS, we talk about it a lot, and people ask ASCLS a lot to help solve these issues. But unfortunately, these issues come down to every institution. And it's not something that a national initiative can solve. It has to be at an institution level. And I really feel like these managers want to. And I think it is giving them the training and the words and the scenarios to make it successful. And I do think that's something that ASCLS has really started pushing, is educating in how to talk the talk to the C-suite, because the talk is very different than laboratory science. And hopefully I don't get fired over that.
You know what, I do agree with you that it's really about talking the talk, and what is it that you're going to say to the C-suite that would make a difference? What's the business case? Because a lot of times if we cannot show our value, we have to actually show our value. And many times we may say things like we provide X amount of the data, and it doesn't translate into value or money. So we have to start, as you say, training up our leaders in different areas, like how to demonstrate ROI, how to collaborate with other healthcare workers in order to demonstrate our value, how to get involved in bigger hospital-wide projects like outcome-based projects, the projects that they care about. How do we get involved in the things that they care about and where they place value? How do we change our perceived value? And that's kind of what I'm doing with my training. I'm trying to kind of raise up some leaders into different areas of how do they demonstrate, because we get a lot of vendors coming in to do things for us, and things that we can do. A lot of times we have vendors trying to sell us things, and they do all the calculation, and we just say yes, and we don't understand what they're calculating. They calculate ROI on maybe a line, a full TLA line, or they may, come in to try to improve our processes. But if we can raise up leaders who are able to speak the talk, as you say, and able to demonstrate our value, I think that's the number one thing that's going to make a difference, is if we change the perceived value to hospital leadership, to the government, to Medicaid and Medicare. It's all about perceived value, because people don't understand the value that we bring.
I really agree with Jessica's comment on the numbers. So when I was a supervisor, management asked us to do kind of a summary, and basically it was like how many, so assuming a person does this many cases a day, and how many people you need, and then also accounting for vacations and maternity leaves, when most of our laboratory was young childbearing aged women, and how many employees do you need to get the current caseload that you have done while still allowing people vacation time and maternity leaves and all of those things. And we did all that work, and there was a lot of talk about it, but from what I understand, and I'm not there anymore, things didn't really change. There wasn't a real change because of it, even though we had the numbers that showed it. I think another thing that happens, people in medical laboratory science we typically don't go into it for the money. We want to help people, and so we do things like stay late to finish up a case so that the results get out to the patient, things like that. It depends, like the lab I worked in, it wasn't shift work. So when you left, there was nobody picking up right where you left off. So way back, we used to do things like we'd clock out and then still finish the case. So there was no documentation of the actual work that it took. So what management sees is that you're still functioning with these numbers of employees, and they need to like feel the pain of that things aren't able to get done. Somehow we always find a way, a creative way or whatever, to manage to get all of the work done with this small number of people, even though we're stressing everybody out. And we are very patient care focused. And I think the problem is that then we do all the work for the patient care with this tiny number of people, and they don't, and nobody sees it because they just think we're doing it, we're getting it done. So why should they change anything?
Absolutely. I'm definitely guilty of staying late to finish a workup on a patient. Granted, that's also there's a risk in handing off when you're, working in blood bank, handing off an antibody ID to another person. So that's partly risk mitigation, but digress. I have like three thoughts that I want to try and bring into this. One, I feel privileged because in blood banking, I believe that we are seen a lot more than the generalists, especially if you're in a hospital that's large enough to have them separated out, because then while the blood bank gives us our MTPs and the blood bank gives us our, sickle cell patient transfusions, I acknowledge that not every department of MLSs has that acknowledgement from physicians, nurses, clinicians, people who are actively on the floor. That being said, there's still an issue with visibility, right? There's an issue with visibility both to hospital management as well as to those clinicians. They just think that the instruments roll out the results and we're not needed. We all know how picky all of our instruments are, right? They never work, never. There's always a problem. And it really does, it takes a village to keep a lab going. And when they think we can run as lean as can be, and then they stop allowing that buffer of staff for somebody got sick, somebody wants time off because they've been, working weekends for a month straight and they deserve a weekend off, or somebody's on maternity leave, someone's mom died, life happens, and we get to a point where they don't see the value we're adding, and we don't get that buffer for life to happen anymore. And that's definitely something that needs to be addressed. Turning it kind of back to the education side, I know this has been an issue at my alma mater that we are often kind of seen as less than the nursing program, and we are one of the larger programs on the Mid-Atlantic East Coast. We turn out about 30 to 35 medtechs a year. And if that's one of the bigger programs, it's also an issue getting enough new medtechs out into the world, especially because so many are going to be of retirement age soon. I know people who've put off retirement for 5 years to keep working because the lab's understaffed. That's not sustainable. People deserve to enjoy retirement as well. But the visibility issue even comes back to college programs because they're underfunded. Oh, do you really need that chemistry analyzer? That's a lot of money. Do we want our students to be prepared for hospital rotations? Do we want hospitals to keep taking our students so we can keep producing them? Yes, it's value added. And at that point, it's even harder to prove that it's value added to a program because there's no direct correlation to patient care. You're just training future med techs. Anyway, I know that's been a struggle periodically for my program. It's hard.
And overall programs they're relatively expensive to run compared to other training programs, because you have 4-hour laboratory sessions, and so the staff to teach the students in that situation, and the things that you need in them, like you just said, we don't have a chemistry analyzer. We have specs, and
I'm rebuilding a Centaur from scratch with no manual right now. So I'm not even getting paid for this. The things we do to keep going.
Right. So programs that's a big thing, and we are similar, 30 to 40 students a year.
Mm-hmm.
but there are programs closing, MLT programs and other programs
everywhere
all over. So it's concerning going forward that we are able to continue to teach and get new MLS out there to support the retirement that's coming for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that in turn, just to support the understaffing that's going on. You know, if we don't have enough trained and educated people, we're not going to be able to keep going.
So let's segue that into what are your favorite go-to calming techniques that can be applied to the staff that is running understaffed, that hasn't had a day off in a hot minute, that is running from one fire to another in one department or another, or all of them sometimes. What are your favorite calming techniques?
I could jump in. I have a lot, but if I'm going to try to apply something to a situation where you're really busy and you don't have time, what I would ask someone to do is, if you're really busy, set a timer and just take 5-minute break, like maybe every hour. Go to the bathroom, grab some water, go to the bathroom, and while you're in the bathroom, take 3 minutes and just breathe. Just take some breathing and think about where you are right there and now. Just like either focus on your breath for like a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then go back. Because if it's that crazy, you really don't have time to do a lot of things that other people would have the luxury of doing. The most you can do is go to the bathroom. 5 minutes to the bathroom, grab some water and then use that time while you're there to just calm down using breathing techniques. I have a lot of things that I do, but I can adjust my schedule. So I have like morning routines, I have meditation. If for people who can probably try to go to bed early and get up a little bit early, if you get a morning routine in, it does help to sustain you throughout the day. So if you can do meditation in the morning, for me, I do like a devotion, I do meditation, and I do a 10-minute exercise every morning. And I set like, how do I want to respond if this situation comes up? If you can do that, if you can go to bed early and get up a little early before you leave work, that's the goal. Because for me, I was doing that for a while and I stopped because I had a big project and it messed me up. It's like I go to work, I'm irritable, I'm reactive. It just makes a big difference when you do that morning routine, if you can. If not, take these quick breaks and go to the bathroom and breathe.
So I would add a consistent meditation practice is really a helpful thing, because if you practice it daily or every other day, whenever it fits in, I totally agree that in the morning, if you can do it in the morning, it does set the tone for your whole day and kind of gives you a little boost in your ability to take a step back. But whenever you can fit it in, even if it's just a 10-minute meditation each day, like the Daily Calm has a great app, and there's other ones like Buddhify and Insight Timer have some really good apps to just do a 10-minute a day meditation, and you just click it on your phone. And if you do that, then when it's practicing focusing on your breath and taking that minute to just relax, like physically and mentally relax for a few minutes. And once you practice that enough, when you get in that moment and things are crazy, you can, in just a couple minutes, just take a minute, like step out of the lab in the hallway and take some deep breaths. And if you do that regular practice, it's much easier to just step out and quickly do that. And it's more effective. It just brings you back to what you know, and if you are practicing it regularly. I think it makes a big difference to be doing that. But I think the breathing techniques are a key thing, where you just take a minute to focus on yourself, your breathing, and calming yourself down. There's another one called 1 Minute Meditation. If you really don't think you have the time to do any of that, it's a really simple app, and it's the same thing, but practicing it just for a minute, maybe multiple times a day or whenever you need it. But for people that don't feel like meditation would be their thing, it's kind of a cool app to kind of expose yourself to it a little bit and see what it can do for you.
I will second, third, fourth, fifth sponsor the 5-minute step out to the bathroom. Definitely done it, especially when, there's 3 projects going on and an instrument just crashed and ended your run and 5 people are about to fight each other in the lab because everything's on fire, metaphorically, not literally. Definitely this moment out to the bathroom is a good tool. I'm gonna actually preach Jessica's gospel for a hot second. Last year, I was actually working 2 jobs. I was working as the bench tech and the regulatory specialist for about 3 months because we were so short-staffed. And I was up at 5 to get into the lab by 6 and then staying late till like 4. It was a time. But I made a lot of cognizant, intentional time to do a yoga practice. It wasn't anything crazy. It's not this 30 minutes for super toned abs yoga. No. This is peaceful, grounding, show up for yourself yoga. And honestly, I attribute being able to handle that 2 jobs, 10-hour days nonstop for months to carving that time out for yoga practice. Also therapy, because shout out to my therapist for helping give me coping mechanisms and grounding techniques for in the moment when I can't, step out for 10 minutes and breathe. If I can't do that, she's here's some in the moment stuff. Again, therapy is an amazing tool to have in our arsenal. We really need to break the stigma around it because it's not just, it's for everyone, So yes, yoga, therapy, amen.
And I'll pop in here and second the therapy because my therapist is the best and I've been with her for years. So there's that. But also I want to talk a little bit about breathing. I'm going to do my little demonstration really quick. So I'm going to come at this from a couple of different angles. The first one is we keep talking about stepping out and breathing. In Western civilization, we stop the breath high. We keep it in the upper chest. All that does is tell our brain subconsciously that we're stressed out even more. Shallow, rapid breathing increases cortisol, increases all your stress hormones, and never actually lets your brain realize that the breathing is actually supposed to be calming. So all these times that they're talking about just stepping away and taking a breath, I want you to just actually breathe all the way into your belly. And the bathroom is a great place because nobody will make fun of you for looking pregnant, but you're going to breathe until you literally look like you have food baby. And then you're going to let it all out and you're going to breathe down your body. So you're going to think about it moving actually down your body, allowing your diaphragm to actually fully inflate, even though it really only inflates 60%, but we won't go there. And then you're going to use the diaphragm to actually push it out, starting from the bottom all the way out. If you do that 5 to 10 times, you actually have told your brain it's okay to calm down. If you keep the breath high, you are telling your brain it is okay not to calm down. It is not time to, it is time to stress. So just deepening the breath all the time is, your best bet. But in those times where you're feeling like you really need to refocus, that's going to be number 1. So learn how to breathe. So children, okay, so do you remember whenever you stick your fingers in your ears and you go, la, 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 I can't hear you? Okay, so there's that. You combine that with the super hippie treatment that's going around right now of float tanks or sensory deprivation tanks. So I'm going to teach you a breathing technique that is essentially a combination of those two. I will not make the panelists keep their camera on if they don't want to, because I have no shame And some of these are not glamorous, but I'm going to demonstrate what's called bee's breath one time, and then you can try it. But I only want you to try it like 1 or 2 times because you won't be able to hear me. And then I have another breathing technique. So don't do bee's breath for the rest of the night. I mean, you can, but you're going to miss out. So bee's breath is a combination of sensory deprivation and a vibration. So what you do is you use your fingers and you're going to cover your eyelids with your first 2 fingers, and then the other 2 just kind of rest on your face wherever. Doesn't really matter. But you're going to use your thumbs and you're going to stick your thumbs in your ears. So the goal is to not be able to see and not be able to hear, but then you're just going to hum to yourself. And what that does is it allows that sound to kind of vibrate through your body. You know, the like movement that children do, self-soothing. So vibrations can be very soothing. Everybody's pitch that is soothing is going to be different. So you may do it the first time, you like, ooh, that pitch, that made me, the back of my teeth chatter, you know? So you may want to lower it, you may want to higher, whatever whatever vibration actually tells your brain to calm down. So I'm going to do it once, and then you're welcome to try. I'm going to do it 3 times total. It's just inhale, hum, exhale with all your senses covered up. So I'm going to start with thumbs in the ears because nanny, nanny, boo, boo. And then fingers over the eyes like this. And you just inhale through the nose and hum. And you do it for your full exhale. So if you want to try it a couple of times, I invite you to try it a couple of times. We'll do it 2 more times. So if you've done it, great, that's bee's breath. The point really and truly is to allow you to block out everything just for a little bit, just for a second. Think of nothing but humming through your mouth, nanny, nanny, boo, boo ears, and just blocking it out and allowing your body to just be in that vibration for just a second. It's a similar feeling after you finish a couple of rounds of them as those deep breaths. It just kind of does a little reset, lets your brain be like, whoo, okay, I thought of something else for a second. I won't get into a lot of the yoga woo-woo for this other one, but it's Nadi Shodhana or alternate nostril breathing. There is a hand gesture, but it really doesn't matter. So a lot of people like to put their fingers like on their third eye, or like, you know, sometimes you're thinking and you do this, like people say they naturally touch their third eye when they want to be smart or balanced. But so Nadi Shodhana, it's alternate nostril breathing. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold one nostril, inhale through the other one, switch, exhale, inhale, switch, exhale. So it's going to be inhale, switch, exhale, inhale, switch, exhale, inhale, switch, exhale. Okay. I can never breathe out of both nostrils, so it makes noises, whatever. It's called a deviative septum. They want to fix it, but I ain't got the money for that. But anyway, so like you can use 2 hands, you can use 1 hand, but we'll just do a couple of rounds. So you'll close, let's close our left nostril first. And you're going to exhale through the right. I'm going to let my camera, okay. Exhale through, you're going to inhale, exhale through the right. Inhale right. Switch, exhale left. Inhale, switch, exhale. Inhale, switch, exhale. So that's alternate nostril breathing. If you want calming, don't do it all on one side, because it's actually the switching that allows both sides of your brain to be like, okay, okay, okay. So that's the calming, is the incorporating both sides of your body and going back and forth, and the whole, you know, breathing thing. So all of these breathing are still into the belly, fat belly breathing. The last one that I want to do is more for the end of your day. So there's research that supports that the stress that medical professionals feel all over can be traumatic. It's not an event, but compounded, it can be considered a trauma, if not dealt with through therapy or released or whatever. So there's a lot of stress relief actually happens through the physical movement. So at the end of your day, whether it be at work or not, you should just shake it out. As silly as it may look, shake it out. And then I'm going to teach you lion's breath. This is the one where sometimes people don't want it on camera, so that's fine. But lion's breath, you just really think about inhaling, and then anything negative, anything, stress, an argument, negative self-talk, whatever, anything negative, you stick your tongue out and you breathe it out in the atmosphere and you don't invite it back. So I love to do lion's breath with a movement. So like I'll like big inhale, arms up, and then I will like lion's breath into a forward fold and like allow my limbs to shake. So it's literally inhale and then, and you have to stick out your tongue, otherwise it doesn't work. So I'm going to do it 3 times. Big inhale up. You know, like the food dogs in Asia. Big inhale up. Last one, big inhale up. And so those are my 3 breathing techniques. So you have your Nadi Shodhana going back and forth. You have your bee's breath that gives you a moment of sensory deprivation to reset your brain. And then at the end of your day, the release of a lion's breath, allowing everything out, all the stress to come out with your tongue out. So that's the end of mine. I do know that Lona had something she wanted to chat about before we pop off. And also, if you have any other questions, put them in the chat. And if you have those apps names for the meditations, please drop those in the chat. So Miss Lona, go ahead and give us your presentation for a giveaway. Wait, you're on mute. Wait.
Okay, so this is a free gift for everyone that's on the presentation. I've done this challenge. It was like a 5-day challenge to help either if you're a lab leader, if you're a lead, and just anybody who want to organize their year or their month. I did this 5-day challenge that help you to figure out some of the things that may be challenging, bothering you, and you don't need to be focused about, and get rid of those and focus on the things that you need to focus on, and how to break big projects down into small projects and focus on important things. So I am sharing this in the link where you can get this free. It's now a course. It was a $97 course, so if I have a coupon on it. So if you sign up, use the coupon, you get it free. But so if you get it by tonight, you'll get it free. So I'm going to put it back again in case you don't see it. So this is my gift to you. Hopefully that will be helpful in trying to organize the many things that you have to do, especially for people working in the lab and working with big projects and a lot of projects to manage.
Thank you so much. So everybody copy that. I believe you will have access to the chat once we close. I did want to just touch a little bit on meditation from a different perspective, because Alyssa kind of brought it up. Meditation doesn't have to be sitting there and clearing your mind. And if you really delve into meditation, it's actually never clearing your mind. So that's a whole nother lecture. I want to just invite you to open your mind to meditation being an act of where you think of nothing except either one thing or nothing in particular. Movement can be meditation. Maybe you learn sun salutation and you want to do it. A meditation of sun salutation could be 108 of them. Maybe shooting free throws, because it's methodical, it's focused, and it's a muscle memory that can be your meditation. Go shoot 50 free throws. It doesn't have to be sitting. What it does have to be is something that allows you to let go of what's happening around you and delve in to whatever you're doing. That's just my 2 cents. I haven't tried to meditate for years. I'm a lot better, but it was never a natural thing for me. So movement meditations were more my jam for a really long time.
100% agree. Hijacking the fight or flight kind of instinct of the nervous system with intentional movement and breathing has been a game changer for me. I actually, as a baby, I could not self-soothe physically. So learning kind of how to hijack that like constant, like kind of on pins and needles and like being able to calm myself down has been amazing, especially in this past year with the stress, be it from the bench or from overhanging projects or from yet another change to the convalescent plasma requirements. Your blood centers are very tired. It's definitely been helpful. So I'm seconding Jessica's breathing gospel another time. It really does help.
So thank you everybody who came and dropped in on our Ask Me Anything this evening. I know it was a little bit on the long side, but we do have that giveaway in the chat, as well as several great apps that you can start looking into for short meditations, or even actually some of them have longer meditations too. But I just really invite you to take an active role in your own stress management to prevent burnout. The sooner the better, because burnout's at the end of the stress. So the more you can incorporate all of these wonderful tips and tricks, the better off you're going to be. So yeah, any other questions before we sign off? Thank you so much, panelists, for donating your evening. And hold on.
Oh my.
Katie, I actually feel like stress and burnout has nothing to do with being a medical laboratory science. I think it has more to do with the fact that you're not allowed to show weakness, and you're not allowed to set boundaries in today's society, particularly in the medical industry. So I don't want to tag that to us in particular or the laboratory, because I don't think it's laboratory specific. I think it is a matter of a culture that is not self-aware enough to catch issues before they really get bad. And also a hyper-competitive culture that doesn't allow people to take breaks when they need them. I think it has not really much to do with laboratory specifics. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone can breathe deeper and move into 2021 for the rest of the year with a little more lightness and a little more self-care and a little more smile. Don't forget to not take yourself too seriously and do lion's breath when you can. And I think with that, we will sign off. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet all of you guys.
You guys, try small, start out small.
Absolutely.
Little habits every day that build up to a big effect.